It's IdoNotes episode number 112 with Mary Beth Raven, past, present, and future. Special thanks to basically everybody in the Yellowsphere for working with her over these years. And we want to thank her especially for being part of the community, and hopefully she continues on. Welcome, everybody. A special episode. This is almost like a going away party, I think, of sorts. Because, well, no, you'll have to be back. You'll have to be back. Everybody knows Mary Beth Raven. We don't have to do introductions. But you made the announcement. Has it been a week already?
2 weeks, I think.
Has it been 2 weeks? Yeah, it was.
Because I've
right.
been at the new job for a week and a half. Yeah.
Wow. So 2 weeks ago, you introduced to everybody that you would be changing gigs, and it went out on the blogs and got picked up, and you had tons of comments and stories and everything else.
Yeah.
So I thought it was only fitting that we, quick review everything you've done and what you were doing, and then what you're going to be doing next, because everyone well, they see you every day because they use their client. So
Right. Yeah. They see my flaws. They see my triumphs. Whatever.
There's no flaws. There's no flaws. So how long were you with IBM overall?
I was with IBM for 14 years minus 1 day. It was really kind of interesting because I joined, actually, it was officially Iris Associates at the time when I joined.
Yeah.
So I joined Iris and had their benefits and their vacation or whatever. But that was August 27th, 1997. And
Wow.
my last day was August 26th, 2011. So it was almost exactly 14 years to the day. It's kind of weird. But of course, we went through this transition: Iris, Lotus, IBM.
You couldn't wait one more day just to keep the.
Well, that was a Saturday, so it was just a little bit.
Okay, it was a wrong timing. I understand. You wanted the weekend yourself. Definitely.
Yeah.
So where did you start? What were you doing when you first started? Was it always UI?
Yeah, it was definitely always UI. Although other parts of my career had been teaching high school French, college English, technical writing, but at Iris, Lotus, IBM, I was always doing user interface design, interaction design. And way back then in 1997, I was hired to be the second person on the same time design team. They already had one programmer, and Paul Haverstock, who was the guy in charge at the time for this new project, and the code name was same time. And we never thought that it would become the actual product name.
Right.
And he interviewed me and said, we need a UI designer. And now remember, back in 1997, not too many people had wireless or laptops or whatever. And I came to the interview with a laptop, and I showed him a bunch of UI designs. And, he was like, so why should I hire you? And I had been doing UI design for a little company who's since gone out of business called FTP Software.
Okay.
And my background is I had a PhD in rhetoric. And back in the Iris days, this is before all the political correctness of IBM, he literally, at my job interview, looked at me and said, why the fuck should I hire a rhetorician? Well, and I opened up my laptop and I said, this is why the fuck you should hire me. And I showed him UI design, and I told him it was all about communicating to the users what they could do. And by the end of the interview, I guess he was persuaded because I got a job offer.
Wow. So, that was a lot of things. Some of the people don't understand is an actual degree, a PhD, right, in rhetoric. Is it the PhD?
Yes.
That's amazing to a lot of people.
What is somebody like? That sounds so esoteric, right? And
very.
Well, a lot of people may think I'm pretty esoteric, but generally speaking, I'm pretty, vernacular and down to earth and everything and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, rhetoric is really all about communicating to people what they can do, what they can't do, and everything. And lots of rhetoricians end up writing political speeches for presidents or senators or whatever. And I ended up at IBM doing UI design.
How long did you do the same time client?
Probably about 4 or 5 years. I did version 1 through version 3.5, I think it was.
So
about 5 versions.
So it would explain why it didn't change until 6.5? No.
No, I'm not. No comment.
No, that UI didn't change all the way back from version 2.5 all the way to 6.5. It didn't change. So after you left, they left it alone. It must have been that good.
For a while, until we got Amy, right?
Probably. Right. Until 7.5. Yeah, no, it was the same. We have screenshots. Carl actually has them. We have on our slides. We're like, what version is this? And his side says, it's all of them. It's everything to 7.5.
Yeah, probably.
They're identical. So you moved on from the same time team and you went into the Notes client?
No, actually,
Did you do the
after
W? Did you do the W?
I did. Let's be honest. In the spirit of full disclosure,
Oh,
I did the W thing. I went from same time to workplace.
wow.
But that was a good thing for me and for
Yeah.
IBM and actually for all of you because
Yes.
the part that I went to was what they called the workplace rich client.
Yep.
And that was back in the days when we thought that we would replace the Lotus Notes client completely with the workplace rich client. And I
Right.
worked on like two versions of that. And then the decision was made instead of replacing it was to use this workplace rich client shell that we developed in Eclipse and stick notes in as a like a Gigunda plugin.
What I
And
call the picture frame. Well, every time I do the
yeah,
session on plugins and widgets, the picture
yeah,
frame.
yes, exactly. And that part was an incredible, interesting day because, well, a little bit of the background, and I think I blogged about this in my goodbye, was I was working on the Workplace Rich client at the time back in like 2005. And Ambuj Goyal, who was the general manager at the time, and Kevin Kavanaugh, who was the VP of engineering at the time, said,
Mhm.
give us some screenshots of what we're doing in like Notes 8. And I was like, well, nobody's working on Notes 8 because Notes 8 is supposed to kind of be dead because we're doing this Workplace Rich client thing. So I gave him Workplace Rich client, pictures. And then the next thing I knew at DNUG, Deutsche Notes User Group in Hanover, they were going, and this is the next version of Lotus Notes. And back in at the home ranch, we were like freaking out, going, oh my
Right.
goodness, they were, it's cool. We're all excited. That was cool.
Yeah, and then, well, soon after, not only did you become well known in the blogosphere and Twittersphere and everything else, but you kind of soon after became known as the Yellow Lady. You everything.
And not that soon. I mean, certainly, first of all, I need to really thank Ed Brill. He was a fabulous social media mentor.
Yep.
And it started at a View conference one year in
Uh-huh.
Boston where he invited me to co-present with him because he's like, a lot is going on with this whole Notes 8 Hanover thing because Hanover was the code name for Notes 8, right?
Yep.
And he wanted me to like do like a 10-minute presentation inside of his overall presentation about what was going on. And I was like, sure, great. I showed up and I did this and everybody loved it. And you could tell they were hungry for more information and stuff. And that was like the beginning of me being more public and doing more presentations and things like that. And then I think that was the fall view, but I'm not sure. But at some point after
No,
like,
Boston would be the spring. I was there. I was there, so it would be
yeah,
the spring, like
so
Mayish, April, May.
yeah. So, well, at some point there, I've been responding to a lot of people's blogs. And Ed was the one who said, you shouldn't just be reactive, you need to be proactive.
Hmm.
So it's time to start your own blog and it's time to start being proactive. And then, so I started the blog, and then the whole yellow thing actually, I think, was a year or so later when it was completely by accident, actually. Hang on, right? The yellow thing started with the shoes, right? Who's the yellow shoes, right?
Yes, yes.
And Alistair Rennie invited me to be a futurist in this futurist panel at the Lotus Sphere Business Development Day. And he'd invited me the year before, and I'd done, I guess, a good enough job because he invited me back. But the second year was when I wore the yellow shoes, and I guess I had a black suit and a yellow blouse, but everybody remembers the shoes, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And I got up on stage, and Chris Crummy had a yellow tie, so we were all joking about all the yellow clothes. And then I walked out from behind the podium with the yellow shoes, and everybody was all excited. And that's when the whole kind of, okay, let's all wear the yellow stuff kind of started. And that was a lot of fun because I mean, it didn't change really the way I designed and the way I did my work, but it added a lot of fun.
True.
And although my daughters have banned me from buying anything else yellow, but that's
Well,
okay.
you've left off the cape. You you didn't mention the cape.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
I did buy the cape, and they were a little like rolling their eyes. I have two teenage daughters, right? So age 14 and 16. But right, so what I'm sitting here tonight, and it's I'm wearing a yellow like a scarf kind of
yeah.
thing, which was given to me by Lisa Duke. I also have a yellow scarf that was given to me um, by Kitty Elsmore. So I've
Uh-huh.
gotten lots of yellow gifts. Like after the yellow shoes thing, it was like that. The color became my signature thing. And every year at Lotus Fair, people would give me presents. I've gotten yellow scarves. I've gotten a hand knitted pair of yellow socks. And
Yes.
so that was all kind of funny and fun. And after that, I did go ahead one year and decide. I think it was 3 years ago now, maybe 2 years. I forget when the yellow cape thing arrived, but I decided that I'd done the yellow shoes, and there's only so many things that, let's face it, a middle-aged kind of chubby woman can look good in yellow. So I wasn't about to show up in a yellow bathing suit. So I'm like, okay, yellow cape, that's cool. Especially if it's cold in Orlando in January.
And the
So
welcome parties were in Orlando in January. Remember the outside about 3 or 4 years ago, how cold it was at that party?
oh my goodness, I remember that, and I wore a winter coat. Yeah.
And you have yellow beads and yellow bracelets.
Oh, right. And so I'm right now wearing yellow beads, and this was a gift from Marie Scott, who I don't know if I'm allowed to all say this, right? Because she's a customer, right, from Virginia Commonwealth University. And what's funny is, right, so once people knew that like yellow was my signature color, and I loved all this, they just it was great. Other people give each other chocolate at Lotus Fair, but they'd come to me with special yellow presents, whether they were necklaces or earrings or socks or whatever. It was fun, just a lot of fun.
You've accumulated a lot, but that was the thing. So you show up and people expect. Well, what we'll do is during this, while you were talking about it, we'll throw up some images from Lotus Sphere and from others that we've got. There's lots of pictures out there on Flickr, so we'll throw. People can get in if
Isn't
you've
it a
never
nice
seen
one?
it. Yeah, good ones. If you've never seen it in person before, like the Cape at Lotus Sphere, I know we've got some good pictures of that. I know we have some. I've seen a couple of them. I think at I Am Lug you had a couple
Oh,
pictures
I
and
Am
stuff.
Lug was one of my favorites. That was awesome because there was the whole I'm going to I Am Lug and this is who
Mhm.
I am contest that
Yep.
you guys did for I
Yep.
Am Lug. And I was just talking about it to my then 12-year-old. And I was thinking, well, what should I do? Should I dress up in yellow or whatever? And she was like, Mom, let's make a sock puppet and make like yellow hair and tie it onto the sock puppet. And we had a blast doing it together. It was great. We
And
had a
she
lot of fun.
she won. That was actually
Yeah,
the winner.
yeah.
It's still up. People can find it on the blog. That is actually still there. I remember that. It was it was a good one. It was like a couple minutes of her and the sock puppet.
Yeah. Right, right. And she was like behind something doing the sock puppet, and I was recording it, and I'm going to I Am Lug because, I love Lotus Notes and I'm a sock puppet or whatever. I can't remember exactly what we said, but it was a lot of fun.
No, it worked. So at the end, you were doing just the notes client then, or were you doing same time again, or what were you doing at the end?
Oh my goodness. Well, when I left, I was actually doing since January until August when I left, I was doing an internal project that I can't really talk about, but it
Right.
was really cool. So notes 8 had shipped. I worked on notes, 8.5, 801, 802, 8.5, 851, 852. And then it's kind of like, okay, you've, kind of like done your time with notes. And I've been lucky enough to be promoted to a role in IBM that they called Senior Technical Staff Member or STSM. And I don't know if
Hmm.
you remember, I think it was at I Am Lug where I said, STSM stands for like Senior
Yeah.
Technical Scapegoat Minion, right? We were joking about it. And that kind of person is expected to do a lot of leadership and direction of entire products or strategies or whatever. And they're like, okay, so you've done your thing in notes, Mary Beth. It's time for something new. And so they asked me to be on this internal project, which was a great opportunity and it was a good thing. Um, but then I also happened to make the either fatal error or fabulous decision to invite a former boss and his wife, whom I'm very good friends with, over to dinner in early May. And we were just talking at my house, and this guy's name is Tom. And I was talking about my job and my life and stuff. And he'd worked at IBM and he'd worked for a couple of years in the user experience group.
Hmm.
And I'd also worked for him many years before at Digital Equipment Corporation. And he just happened to mention he had this great job that I'd be perfect for, but ooh, he could probably never get me to leave IBM. And it was kind of like one of those,
Ha
hmm,
ha 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 moments. Ha 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 ha
exactly.
ha.
I was like, well, try me. Well, let me interview and we'll see what happens. So, and I honestly could say if he was probably the only person in the world who could probably have persuaded me to leave IBM. So let me back up and tell you a story. In 1995, I married this man, but I was never his wife.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So figure out how could that be legally?
Well,
It was
no.
all legally okay.
He was your boss? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't want to
All
fathom
right.
the possible answers to this story. I don't want to even
Okay.
want.
So I want all of you like
Uh,
logical people to pause and think a minute. I married the man, but I was never his wife.
yeah, it sounds like a career thing. That's what it sounds like to me. Married
It
to your
was more
job.
legal, right? No. Way back when at Digital Equipment Corporation, I was working with him and I was working with a technical writer. And I introduced this technical writer woman to him. They ended up dating. They ended up getting engaged and
Did you
they wanted
perform the
her to
ceremony?
ceremony. Yes, there you go. I was the justice of the peace that performed the ceremony. Yes.
Oh, your doctorate goes a long way. It
Yeah,
goes.
exactly. Exactly.
It
Right. So
goes.
this is the kind of background and friendship. He and
Oh,
I have known each
geez.
other for 20 years, and I loved my job at IBM. I love the community. Leaving the community has been, I'm not leaving the community, as my nerd girlfriends tell me, right?
Yes.
You can leave IBM, but you're not leaving the community. And if it wasn't for that kind of support and the fact that, Tom has known me for 20 years and said, look, you know, you do a great job at this new job. We have, faith you did a great job at the old job, kind of thing. I never would have kind of had the courage to make this this leap.
So let's jump that way. What are you going to do for your online? I know that you're a big part of the Notes Design blog. So are you going to run your own,
Yeah.
start your own, or what are you going to do there?
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't done anything yet. The nerd girls are saying, create your own blog and stuff, and I probably should, and I want to, but quite honestly, I'm very busy right now. Really trying to understand my new job and get up to speed on the whole new job and things like that,
Hmm.
and not try to spend too much time on what's now going to be extracurricular. Whereas, when I was the notes design lead, doing all that blogging was an integral part of my job. And I expect in my new job, which is doing user interface design for a company called SolidWorks, blogging and stuff like that will eventually be an integral part of my job. But I'm also trying to decide. In the past, the notes design blog and Mary Beth were kind of like one and the same, completely intertwined. And now I think maybe it's time to have a personal blog because I still have such a legacy with the, Lotus and collaboration community at IBM and elsewhere,
Yeah.
and a new job blog with the new job. So I just need to get it all set up and everything. But mainly right now, I'm primarily getting used to figuring out all the new stuff at the new job, which means I have to learn how to use that other email program and stuff like that.
Google.
Mm, no comment, right? And that other instant messaging, and it's so funny because here I am, me. I designed same time for 5 years. I designed notes for 5 years. I take a new job, and it's like, oh, I mean, talk about taking a leap. I mean, I'm not using anything I used to use, so it's really an eye opener, but a good education for me.
Well, of course. And you get to see the flip side. So your Twitter account's going to stay the same, of course.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And so this is really interesting. I had about 1,700 Twitter followers
Hmm.
last month, and I blogged and I tweeted that I was leaving IBM, and I lost about 100. I've gone down to about 1,600. But in the terms of percentages, that's what, like 7% or whatever. I was kind of surprised because I expected, because I assumed that my Twitter following was mainly because I was a design lead for this big product called Lotus Notes at IBM. So when I tweeted and blogged that I was leaving IBM and leaving Notes, I expected a huge exodus, like 800 or 900 people would like, unfollow me. And it hasn't happened. So I don't know if it's because A, they're not using Twitter anymore, so they don't care, or B, they're still interested in what the heck happens with, me as a person and where I go and whatever, and why not continue to follow me?
Right.
That's really, I thought it was very curious.
And design, it's the same as mine, and I think and the others, it's well, we cross blend not just notes but other social media stuff. So you get a
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm still doing a bunch of social media stuff. I mean, the new company I'm working for, SolidWorks, of course, is focused on 3D CAD design. But part of my job is to take a look at how do we integrate collaboration and social media and things like that into this already complex and sophisticated tool to help people who are doing 3D CAD design, get answers, leverage social media, do collaboration from within their current context.
sure.
So I still certainly am very interested in social media. I'm still interested, I've told Joyce Davis, who's, the collaboration solutions community manager, that I still want to be all part of that and use her as kind of like a mentor and working on, how to develop community in my new job and all that kind of stuff. So in that respect, yeah, I still plan on being around and learning and contributing.
Good. I mean, that's what we're going to be looking for, is not just the followers, but to see what you post and what what you're working
Right.
on or what you're going to be, what you can talk about, what you're going to be doing, is what
Right.
everyone's going to look for because they're not abandoning you. You're part of the notes community, the bubble. They didn't they didn't like you said. Not everybody
Right.
unfollowed you and deleted you and
Right.
got rid of your
Yeah.
contact. It's the idea to make sure that you're
Right.
still around. And the UI design is a huge piece of it because it affects, like you said, you're going to something that deals with CAD, but every product we deal with has, UI nuances. And now they'll probably just yell at you for something you did in the past.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But right now, the big thing is indeed, how do we integrate this collaboration and or social media into everything we do, whether it's CAD design, whether it's customer relationship management, whether it's other email programs, whether it's product lifecycle management, or whether it's resource management or HR, whatever, right? So, and I just happen to go and pick a certain area. So it's funny because I'm sort of like now a downstream contributor. How do I take this concept of social media or collaboration and integrate it into the tools that my company now creates? So it's
So
kind of interesting.
it's not a personal question, but a direct one that says came to mind just now when you were talking is there anything that you did in the product that people complain about that you took personally, meaning it wasn't part of your job in UI design, but you took it personally because you did this UI decision. You don't have to say what it was, but did it ever affect you that way where you said, "Damn"?
Mm. Well, yes and no. I, I spent a lot of time working on the sidebar design in Notes 8 and above, right? And you folks have seen me at several Lotus Spheres with Jamie Wu, who's the developer of the
Yes.
sidebar. We work really closely together.
Yeah.
And like the first version didn't have as much accordion kind of thing as we wanted. It was kind of difficult to use and stuff like that. And Jamie and I together collaboratively wanted to put lots of stuff in initially, but
You
we
have
weren't able
time.
to
Right.
given time constraints and stuff like that. So I kind of took that personally. I think one of my biggest, I guess you'd say, UI failures, I think, was I had this great idea with contacts to, if you remember, with iNotes, right? There's
Mhm.
iNotes contacts, which are stored in the mail file, and then
Yep.
there's the other contacts, which are separate. And in Notes 8, to put on the replication page that there's contacts that you could replicate and to try to, you know, get people to have a consistent mental model and stuff like that.
Right.
But we neglected to have any kind of policy so that admins could make this happen automatically. And we sort of relied on the end users who actually don't have a clue of how any of this works. That
Yes.
was a part of like, oh, you're right. That was really stupid. I kind of failed.
The synchronized contacts thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, I was just dealing that with a customer this morning. It's funny as you say that they had just turned that on
Yeah.
inside the policy for desktops today. So it's one of those things they just added actually, or is it setup? One of the two. Setup, I think it is. But yeah, they just put that in there actually. It's funny that you mentioned
Right.
that one. But yeah, I was, that was one thing we were always curious is no matter what it is you work on, do you ever, take it personally versus, oh, that was the job I was, I had to do. I know
Well,
it's
in
got to be
some
tough.
respects, I take it all personally. In other respects, I go, "That's the job I had to do."
Yeah.
Because I loved all the okay. This is a challenge. Notes is a great product. Notes Domino is a great product. It's kind of evolved. It was a challenge. I know I didn't start out with it, so it's kind of like I can't take it personally because for the first 15 years I wasn't even working on it. But
Right.
on the other hand, I feel like it's now my baby in the fact that I still care about it. I still want to see people use it. I still want to be successful, whatever. So,
So it's a likely excuse. I didn't work on it then, so I can't take any. That's a likely excuse. That's not my fault.
right,
I
right.
wasn't part of that team.
Yeah.
So where do you want them to
Yeah.
find you? What do you want them to do here to find you when we're
Um,
done? So we'll stay under a half hour here. What? At Mary Beth Raven,
um, on
Twitter.
Twitter, Mary Beth Raven,
Mm-hmm.
one word. On Skype, Mary Beth Raven.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I don't have a new blog set up yet because I'm just too busy working at the new job or whatever. But certainly,
We'll take care of
just
that.
continue to monitor Twitter at Mary Beth Raven
Mm-hmm.
and the Skype stuff, and we'll see if the powers that be decide if my new blog ends up on Planet Lotus or not, which I can understand if it doesn't, but I'm sure other people will tweet or whatever, and you'll find it.
We'll
Um,
find it.
so
You didn't show us the shirt. Remember we were doing the
oh,
pre thing.
oh, Nathan, yeah, woohoo! So my favorite shirt, right? The whole,
Start doing.
start doing. Let's
Start
forget the
doing.
top part. Stop complaining and start doing. Right, one of my favorite shirts of all time. Over 14 years of free T-shirts. thank you group and Nathan Freeman for the stop complaining and start doing t-shirt. I love it. I wear it all the time, and I even like wore it to my kids' school accidentally once and sort of had to cover it up. But it's a cool shirt.
You put a yellow scarf on at the school.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I've got handy yellow scarf all the time.
I'm sure when it was like 100 degrees out, that went really well at the school.
Of course, I know.
There you are in a scarf at the school itself. Well, no, everyone was sad, but everyone's happy for you, but everyone appreciates everything you had done. It's, amazing the amount of work that goes into it. I've yelled at you over the years too of stuff. Well, not yelled, but I said, what were you thinking?
Right. It's a design team. We're only human. We make mistakes, but I think the best thing that I brought to it was the fact that there's this interaction, right? So we can ask our community, we can iterate, we can make it better.
Well, you listen. That was the change. Is that if we said, what made you think anyone would ever click there? You'd go, yeah, that's a good point. We thought you would click there, but you guys listened and you would make modifications as you could. I know some of the ideas came from the feedback that you'd asked for in the blog itself, the comments.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Many, many times. Yeah.
You'd have a pseudo mini survey that you just say, hey, tell me what you think about this or this or this with a bunch of mock-ups. That's amazing to see from any vendor that you put yourself out there with mock-ups. So that takes a strong will to to say, here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Am I right on, or is this going to be way off and to the public, right?
And let me tell you, as you know, many times the public told me, you're way off.
Right. Or I'd never use it that way. Or business cases that, I'm sure you're going to counter that in your new one. Business cases you never thought of that they use it for daily.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we're going to thank you for taking some time. In the evening, and then I'll probably have this out here for everybody. So if you want to follow her, put it on the screen though, but definitely Mary Beth Raven on Twitter. We'll get her a blog here shortly when this call's done. On Skype, and then when she's ready, she'll let us know exactly where to find her new stuff. So anything else you want to tell everybody before we stop the recording part? Anything else? No?
Thanks, you.
Thanks, Yellowverse.
Because, all this stuff that you say that I did would have been completely worthless if I hadn't had any feedback, right? Blogging would have been worthless if you folks hadn't responded to the blog so that I got input so that I could modify the design. So thank you, and stay engaged.
Exactly. All right, Mary Beth, you hang on. Everybody else, I want to thank Mary Beth for taking the time, and we'll be seeing lots more of her coming up, I know, because we're going to see what the heck she does anyway, because maybe we can learn something about apparently the other software, even though we don't do it. So you hang on one second. Everybody else, another IdoNotes episode, and we'll be seeing you shortly. Yeah. Woo.